How long you been working with the radio station? Oh, let me shut up there.
Yeah, nah, yeah, you fine, you fine. Yeah, we can
Uh-huh.
kick it. I've been working here since July of last year,
Okay.
and actually, I did an interview with the owner, and she liked my story and asked me would I be willing to do a radio show.
Excellent.
And and I was like, yeah. And so she asked me what would it be about, and I said, people like myself who has been, through some trials and tribulation, but also has turned their life around.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did, and it's been working out prime, man. I've been getting a lot of good feedback. I got some listeners every week that reach out and comment on the show, and so now we're here, and you are a guest, and I guess we'll talk about that as the show goes on. But I don't think you had a U-turn though, right?
I think we all had U-turns. You had a life worth living. Or you like even if you have a well-lived life, you're gonna have some regrets. I mean, but the thing about it, do the regrets do it control your narrative?
Okay.
Like Dick Gregory was telling me, we all in our own movies, man. Don't let something that happened to you at 4 years old be your whole story. We live to be 104.
That's true.
You need to pick what the topic or genre of your movie is and how it turns out. You got more control than you think. We got some type of free will. I mean, even though people think we're in the Matrix or whatever, you still got choices on the table. I think a lot of times people don't realize they still got a choice to do whatever.
Yep, definitely. So we got like a minute to start the show, so I'm gonna go ahead and switch the microphones to the radio show.
Okay,
so
good.
You won't be able to hear me, but you'll hear the prompt about the coming and everything when we start the show.
Okay, good. You can hear me though. Everything good on my end?
Yeah, everything is fantastic. Fantastic.
Okay,
ISLP 1069, Winterville, Ayden, Grifton, Southside, Greenville, North Carolina. I try to be a better man, but folks just don't understand. Try to do all I can to deal with this addiction in me. Lord, I want to change. I can't stay the same. But the sins that in my vein is trying its best just to kill me.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. We are once again live here at the UTurn Radio Show. I am your host, Richard Taylor, here at awesomeradio.org. Make sure if you haven't, go to our website, www.wbis.awesomeradio.org LP, to download all of our apps, the Google Play Store, the Apple Store, and also Alexa. And also feel free to check us out on Roku TV. We do have a Roku TV channel, so make sure you go there as well, GPAT TV locally. And also, this is an interactive show. So we feel free to call in at 252-756-2008. I am so honored and elated to have a very special guest. He's humble, so, all of these accolades probably, make someone uncomfortable. But if you've ever watched any of the YouTube videos from We All BTV, this gentleman has interviewed countless cultural icons, just to name a few, the late, great, legendary Dick Gregory, also the current activist and social activist Judge Joe Brown, Dr. Randy Short. Man, the list goes on and on. So I just want to thank my brother, special guest, Ron Hurd. How you doing today, sir?
I'm blessed and highly favored for that nice promo you gave me. Nice intro. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and a lot of people, like I said, I told him when I reached out to him, man, that I used to listen to his videos on a nightly basis, man, because of the information, but also because of the state of our people. And he has a heart for, and when I say our people, no offense to anybody else, but, Black people, and the situation that, a lot of situations that affect us as a community. So I'm just going to start off with giving a little background by Mr. Ron Hood. Where you from? Memphis, right?
Yeah, Memphis, known as the city of good abode. That's our official moniker, supposedly.
The good of what?
Good abode. Like we put, hey, well wishing, bunch of haters, but haters are your biggest fans sometimes. But it is what it is. The city
So
of good
how was
abode.
it growing up in Memphis, though?
It was interesting. Like I kind of sheltered a little bit. I ain't in the streets and nothing like that. I come from a family that believes and values education and knowledge of self. So I mean, it was an interesting, thing growing up in Memphis. I had a mom, Dr. Callie Hirsch, just got a doctorate in education not too long ago, and she's very passionate about education and history and knowledge. And I was able to draw at an early age, at the age of 2. But also, I had a speech problem. I had to go to speech therapy for a number of years during my elementary school years. But I could draw, you know what I'm saying? And if you learn, a lot of great people tend to have speech impediments early on. You think about James Earl Jones, they about to name a Broadway theater after him. He had a real bad stutter and stuff like that when he was younger, even Samuel Jackson. But he's some of the greatest actors of all time. So I think God put things in your path early for you to overcome. Adversity creates opportunity. The way you find your so-called cardinal genius is to be in uncomfortable situations. But my mom, she saw that I was gifted, and she made sure I put me into like creative and performing arts programs, starting middle school all the way to high school. So I had went to a program in public school that focused on my visual arts talents and really encouraged me to be creative and expressive.
Okay, and so with your youth, because I see your name says Ron Hurd II.
Right.
Was your father? I always ask my guests this because we have this stereotype in the Black community about fathers not being available.
Right.
So was your father in the home?
He wasn't in the home, but this is an intro. I'm gonna tell a story. I think sometimes is a fact is stranger than fiction. Like it's better than a Hollywood movie. We tell the truth about our experiences and where we come from, our origin story. Like every superhero got an origin story, right? But my father's from Michigan, from Saginaw, Michigan. He met my mom in college. Like my mom was from Memphis and he was from Saginaw, Michigan. They met in college at the University of Tennessee at Knoxville. And come to find out that his 8th grade math teacher is my mom's auntie from Mississippi. So they ain't know each other, just cross paths on a neutral ground. They fell in love, they got married, they conceived me on their honeymoon, whatever, wedding day, and I, came out, but unfortunately, they got a divorce when I was 2 years old. But he wasn't really there physically, he paid child support and stuff like that, but he really wasn't active. He ended up adopting some other man's kids, and he's working on his 3rd marriage right now. But I wish him all the best. I don't hold no ill will, but it's just what's interesting about him. Like I tell you about my family background, I got unique bloodlines and stuff. His father was a civil rights activist and a union organizer up in Saginaw, Michigan. He worked at a factory, an auto factory, and he was very vocal. He was respected. Like when they did his obituary back in April 1970, they say he was a leader of concerned blacks up in Saginaw, Michigan. That's what the newspaper said. Allegedly he was targeted. He actually got a call. Somebody called his house when they was having dinner. My father lost his father when he was 13, and a lady on the phone told my his eldest sibling, my aunt Stephanie, who passed away about a couple years back. She called the house from college. She was the first to go to college. She called the house while they was having dinner, and she told my grandma Brito, his wife, that somebody told her that her father passed. That why nobody didn't tell her that her dad died. And he was at the dinner table eating with everybody. And her mama said, "No, baby, he's right here eating dinner." And then he said something to the effect, "Not yet." Like he knew it was coming for whatever reason. I don't know what he was really involved in terms of his politics and union organizing activities. So what happened to him was he ended up getting killed on the job. A machine fell on him and crushed him to death. And he was just like 44 years young. He left a young widow with a lot of kids, to raise. And my father lost his father at 13. And from my understanding, he kind of became more withdrawn after that happened. But it is what it is. But he had his father for 13 years, being hands-on in his life, encouraging them kids to get a good education. He was known as a person that loved to try to better himself through reading books and whatnot, in particular books about Black history.
Okay. Now, do you think that there was any foul play?
I know it's foul play. I know, the thing about it, I talked to my grandma about it, and she was saying that all his friends' wives were told to stay away from her after he died. Like their husband said, you stay away from so and so. And from my understanding, they all got promotions on the job. These were so-called friends and comrades. They all got promoted. And they told their wives not to speak to my grandma anymore. And they had a deal or settlement where the factory or business paid out my grandma until the oldest child turn of age, I guess 18.
Okay, so they must have felt guilty a little bit.
Oh yeah, man, they did the mission accomplished, but I think a lot of that stuff it skips generations. Like my father ain't an activist, sort of. He's an electrical engineer. I got to think about engineers. They're not really expressive of their feelings. They're like Mr. Spock or something. The best of like they're very like into mathematics and all this stuff being logical for the most part. So, but I believe it skips a generation sometimes. Like the people that get that torch, like he wasn't meant to be an activist minded type of dude. Like maybe I am. I got that from his father.
So when did you realize the call to activism, or what was like the defining moment that caused you to, do what you do now?
That's a great question. I guess it was always a point of evolution, evolving. It's very organic because, like I said, my mom really was about teaching folks value of education, community service, and knowledge of self. I was volunteering when I was in elementary, junior high. I was like one of the first people to volunteer as a tour guide at the National Civil Rights Museum when it first opened. We were real good friends with Judge D. Army Bailey, the co-founder of the National Civil Rights Museum. So my mom would take me with her along on the weekends as a tour guide while I watch her and I read all this stuff and become like an expert, so to speak, on things. So when folks come in, I tell them a little bit more about the exhibits and the stuff behind it.
And that was in Memphis?
That was in Memphis, yeah, National Civil Rights Museum, where they killed Dr. King, Lorraine Motel, and they turned it into a museum. And I guess it was like really what the We All Be thing was like April 2006. I had caught a charter bus from a church sponsor, a charter bus, to go down to New Orleans to protest the early voting on April Fool's Day 2006. It's like the year before was Hurricane FEMA, Katrina, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
And so they moved all these black folks out of New Orleans. A lot of them never been outside New Orleans. They up in Oregon and Utah and stuff like that. Places they never been, let alone outside of Louisiana. So Al Sharpton and the usual suspects, they organized a protest march to protest the early voting thing. And also it was a thing when we went across the bridge. You remember like that story about the black folks trying to escape New Orleans, trying to get into, I think, Gretna Parish, one of them parishes. And the white folks turned them around. They had guns on them. So you got to turn back around, go back to New Orleans. So we actually marched into that parish to protest early voting. Like you had your celebrities like John Legend, he performing on the bridge with a piano, I think. But the thing about it was the epiphany that hit me. I said, we got to tell our stories from our perspective, man. Like a lot of stuff that's going on the ground and grassroots level is not being well known or being amplified or disseminated. So I said, that inspired me to start the We All Be blog. Now, We All Be is an acronym for World Enriching, Activating, Liberating Love, Beautification Experience. Like I was really influenced by Sun Ra, the great jazz mystic, and he said he was sitting here to teach the world how to love beautiful things and beings, particularly black people, know our worth and knowledge of self. So I started as a blog. Then I had a chance to before I even went to New Orleans, you know what I'm saying? I went to a Black History program at the FedEx corporate headquarters. FedEx was founded in Memphis by Fred Smith. Their world corporate headquarters is on, Winchester, whatever. You wouldn't, it's on Winchester Road.
Yeah.
It's in Memphis. But they had a Black History program, and the keynote was Juan Williams, the guy that used to be on NPR, the talking head on Fox News and all that stuff. Conservative guy, but also well-known historian on the civil rights movement. He wrote books about the civil rights movement. And I think he also was in the Eyes on the Prize series at one point, I'm not mistaken. But I had a chance to make his acquaintance after he got through speaking. He's like, he was impressed with me, and he gave me his number. And so I called him. So he offered me, he gave me 10 minutes of his time on the phone call. And I told him my concern about how black folks were portrayed in the media and how we don't really get a chance to be the narrator of our own story. We are often marginalized or made invisible in our own story. So he encouraged me to get with like-minded individuals in my community and create some type of media platform, whether it be a newspaper, whether it be public access TV, do something with some people that can do that. He didn't tell me how to do it, but he encouraged me to go for it, take some chances. So like By the end of 2006, December 2006, my mom was an educator. She used to do a lot of stuff with her college preparation blog. They got a lot of local as well as national notoriety. So people was digging what she was doing in the community with, college preparation, panel discussions, ACT, SAT workshops, and stuff like that. And
Okay.
so it was a woman who had a platform on a media platform known as Blog Talk Radio. It just came out in 2006. So she asked my mom to be a guest on her platform. So it was like oh, Eureka or something like Epiphany. Oh, so this is what it fell in my lap. This thing called Blog Talk Radio. Let me start doing stuff on this. So I signed up for in December, and January the 7th, 2007 was the first podcast I ever did. And my thing was, I used to have these long esoteric conversations with my friends all over the country. I'm saying, man, we should record this for posterity because this could encourage and inspire other folks to think and do things. And so first, it was like on Sundays, I'll have my friends, a couple friends around the country, we call in and discuss things, and they kind of fell out by the wayside. So what I started doing, I started hitting up the internet as well as MySpace to get more guests to interview. So it started on MySpace, started hitting the internet, Googling people, and it just went from there. You know what I'm saying? So I went from this interviewing my friends, started interviewing people like Dr. John Hope Franklin, a great historian. Then eventually Dr. Francis Quest Wilson, Dick Gregory, people like that. And also breaking news stories. Like I was like one of the first media platforms in the United States to interview some of the participants, the key participants in the Gen 6 movement from 2007. A lot of people forgot about the Gen 6 movement.
Okay.
And I'm becoming good friends with Marcus Jones, the father of Michael Bell, the only one to do time from the Gen 6. But he ended up graduating from Southern University with honors back in 2014. And unfortunately, his father died in a weird car accident down in Gina not too long after that in December 2014.
In Gina, where the event happened, do you think there was foul play in that too?
Probably. I mean, it's weird because he was on his way. He was trying to he'll gathering supplies to do a cookout for homeless people in that area. He had a big heart, Marcus Jones. He was the brother that told me to connect with Dick Gregory. Actually gave me Dick Gregory's house number to connect with him. So he encouraged me to do that. And Marcus was interested because he was a strong black masculine man. Like you talk about a person, was my father involved in his son in my life? Even though he lived in Dallas at the time while all this stuff went down, he came back, he quit his job, whatever, came back to Gina to support his son. Very vocal, very masculine, very aggressive. And that's a no-no.
Yeah.
So they were trying to sabotage him with women, black women. And that's another, it's like, they're trying, and like he spit on this lawyer that represented his son in the elevator. It's just all types of weird charges start coming up. Then Michael Basin and Al Sharpton, he was, Al Sharpton was messing with him at one point. Then he kind of got shut out. But to me, he was sincere about wanting to utilize what happened to his son as a way to liberate black people. Like it was two movements. I mean, I know I ain't gonna get all into it, but he was the cat that was really about black power and black family and justice. Like he didn't mind. Like there was a thing where you had a group of people like that wanted to fight this through the legal system, like to set a precedent like Brown v. Board. Then other folks that was after the bag and for other selfish reasons. He wasn't a selfish person like that, but I do feel like it was something strange about him dying the way he died because he was in the back of his friend's truck on the highway, and all of a sudden he fell out some way. His friends lost him. When he got to his destination, he wasn't back there, so he went back on the highway. They found out he got ran over several times.
Wow.
And I talked to his mom because I didn't know he was dead until Dick Gregory died. Because I tried to look him up and found out he'd been dead for almost 3 years. I didn't even know it, and I just felt real bad. And I talked to his mom not too long after that when I found out and interviewed her, and she was in her 90s, I believe.
Wow. So when the South, like a lot of stuff like that happens and gets covered up,
of course,
just like like you remember the Ahmaud Arbery case,
where
the event happened about two months prior to anybody finding out.
Right.
How often do you think that goes on in the South, and what other events that you know about?
Oh my God, you gotta be opening up old traumatic war wounds, man. Like, is this therapy? You talk about Ahmaud Arbery, right?
Yeah.
They actually did some justice in that one, but here's the thing: for every Ahmaud Arbery, there's a Kendrick Johnson.
Now, Kendrick Johnson,
yeah.
Is that the one who was hung, or that was the one who was stuffed with newspapers in the gym?
He was stuffed in newspaper. Before that, he was rolled up in a gym mat, and they said it was he did it to himself.
And that was in
Valdosta, Georgia.
Valdosta, Georgia.
I think that's southern Georgia. Yeah. So that for every Ahmaud Arbery, because he got justice just almost on the day before the 2-year anniversary of his murder. No, because they threw the book at them. Like, they try to go through the federal courts, the feds threw the book at them guys, rightfully so.
Okay.
But Kendrick Johnson, it is alleged that he had an issue with these boys, these white boys who were brothers whose father was in the FBI. So they let you know what time it is now. People understand that the FBI ain't our friends. They never been our friends. The gun that killed Dr. King came from the FBI. So they let you know who the FBI. But yeah, I remember I investigated a case, right? Frederick Jermaine Carter. This happened up in Greenwood, Mississippi, back in December of 2010. They found this black boy, 26-year-old black man, named Frederick Jermaine Carter, who originally from Massachusetts. He lived in Sunflower County, but he disappeared for like 2 days. He was on a painting gig with his stepfather, Llewell Evans, I believe his name was.
Okay.
So it was weird because he disappeared on Wednesday on a paint job in a county that he didn't live in. And then 2 days later, they found him hanging from a tree on a walkway by the Tallahatchie River, where they found Emmett Till's body near a dog kennel. Now, what was strange about that is they found him on Friday, early December, the first weekend in December, hanging from a tree. The coroner claimed he was dead for about 48 hours. But when people walked there that morning, because it's a walkway, you walk, jog, and run, whatever, they didn't see no body hanging there until like in the middle of the day. But he was dead for about 48 hours, according to the coroner. And I spoke to the coroner and the county sheriff and other officials, and I got that all for posterity on We All Be TV. And also, I wrote blog posts about it. I was the only person really doing any type of investigative journalism, I think, into that case, because I wrote a multiple part series about why has any justice been done in that case? Because to me, it could easily been solved, if people really cared about solving that case. But they had like it was a suicide. At first, they said it was a suicide, right? Because you look at the Nation, the Final Call, Nation Islam, they had the courage to run his picture hanging from a tree on the front page of the Final Call that December. They actually helped organize his funeral homegoing down there in Sunflower County. And I think Minister Farrakhan, the Nation Islam, paid for a second autopsy. And it's been over 10 years. I don't know what the second autopsy said, but they had a hard time releasing the first autopsy. So what I did was back in March, it's funny, it's March. So it was around March of 2011. I started making calls to different agencies in Mississippi to find out what was going on with the autopsy results. So I finally got to the state medical examiner's office. There's a guy named Dr. Adel Shaker. He was from Africa. He's a Kenyan Egyptian guy, but he one of the world's top forensic scientists. And so he became the state medical examiner not too long before, a little bit before Frederick Jermaine Carter was found hanging from that tree. So he had a lot of cases that were backlogged, but then the previous medical examiner was notoriously corrupt.
Okay.
The politics are real bad. But Dr. Adel Shaker, he said he didn't say it was a suicide. He said it was a hanging that needed to be investigated. And I broke that story because I talked to him on the phone. He said, I just mailed it out today. I mailed out the results today. He said hanging, pending investigation. So that broke, and everybody, like, it took on new life because it was kind of dead in the water. But what I found out is that there's people close to the case, even probably family, that did not want to get this solved. So that really burned me out. That case burned. I had to take a break for some months after that because I really trying to get justice for the young man. I remember going there on Good Friday 2011 down to Greenwood to cover the press conference with the head of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Dr. King's organization, Dr. Howard Creasy from Atlanta. He brought his entourage from Atlanta to go say that they was interested in find out what happened to this young man. We went to the crime scene in the middle of the day. Now, I'm gonna tell you, it was spooky as hell. I mean, it was spooky because it was the middle of the day. Now, we had prominent people like Dr. Howard Creasy. We had Frederick Jermaine Carter's mom, his stepfather, and then their lawyer, Valerie Hicks Poe. Then we had state troopers, transport, and I still spooked out because going back there was weird because allegedly trying to claim that this man climbed this table to hang himself. The dude was like maybe 5'4" or something like that. And so they had the table out there. I said, this is December, right? Now, this is March. I think this is what? Good Friday 2011. Was that April or March? Easter move around.
Yeah.
But like it's months later, and the crime scene ain't still is like, what the hell? Why you got the table out there? If he used that table to climb up on a tree to hang, it's weird knots. You know, black folks, we better tie our shoes a lot of times. Like, we ain't been no Navy. Well,
Yeah.
he said he did that, but why you leave the table out there? It's been months. Why is not in the crime lab? If this table was actually used for him to commit suicide. Why? I mean, there's a lot of questions, but it was a dog kennel back there. And we had police escort. You had state representative Willie Perkins was there. State Senator David Jordan was there. Like I said, you had some VIPs were there. We had state trooper police escort. I still feel strange because it was a white man watching us in a pickup truck.
Okay.
You know, I wish I had went and talked to him because he was watching us. He went. It was a dog kennel back there. He went to feed the dogs, but I think he was really trying to, ear hustle about what was going on. So I just want to talk. I feel it was strange, man. It was so spooky, man. It's the middle of the day, and we got police and everything. It still felt strange because they found this black boy hanging from a tree in a white affluent neighborhood next to the Tallahatchie River where they found Emmett Till's body. Yeah. So why would he commit suicide? Why would he go to another county to commit suicide if he did do that? Yeah. Now, I heard he had some things going on in his life, but I don't think he killed himself.
I think I remember that case too. And I just want to pause for station identification. This is WBIS 106.9 FM, awesomeradio.org here on the UTurn Show with host Richard Taylor and the special guest Ron Hurd. Now, you mentioned that incident right there and your investigation, and with what you're doing and what you have done, have you ever gotten any flack or pushback or even, felt threatened by anything that you've done, or any story that you've investigated or covered? People wanting to say, well, okay, what you doing here? Don't ask about that. You're stepping into dangerous territory, stuff like that.
They're saying God take care of fools and children, right? So of course I got pushed back, and it's like from surprising places. Like even with the Fred Jermaine Carter case, it was the family lawyer that was pushing back. Even though I had did things to break the case, I didn't make no money off of that. There's a couple of cases I was just doing things because it was the right thing to do. But people pushed back from people you thought you was helping. That really hurts a lot. Never felt necessarily afraid, but people were saying weird. I'll get phone calls. Like people, I guess they looking out for my well-being, said, man, don't get involved. Because you don't understand the politics of the situation. You need to step back. I guess trying to give me fair warning, but I never felt like my life was in danger. Maybe it has been, and I just got protection. I got some type of protection.
Yeah. So how was it working with the late great Dick Gregory? How? Because
I mean, Dick Gregory was like a drill sergeant, man. He is like, he go hard on you, but it's trying to make you strong. He's trying to discern something in people and separate the weak from the strong. Like he would tell me sometimes, man, we in the army. If you don't like the orders, get the out the army. Yeah, you're talking about we fighting spiritual warfare, not just physical with guns and bullets and bombs, but spiritual warfare. And you got to access a universal God for some type of understanding in that situation. Dick Gregory was he's like an enigma. I mean, Dick was like really like a puzzle. If you look at his life, like it's a good documentary that was done that came out on Showtime this past summer about Dick Gregory. People should watch that. And I don't really tell the whole story about Dick Gregory. Dick Gregory is like Forrest Gump with a brain.
Okay.
Like everything he did was intentional and it went beyond his wildest dreams. Like he led so many different lives in one lifetime. Like he was like for example, he helped Muhammad Ali train, one of the greatest heavyweights, if not the greatest heavyweight of all. He helped them train as well as Riddick Bowe train to become heavyweight champions. I mean, he helped detox John Lennon and Yoko Ono. He got John Lennon off of drugs.
Wow.
And John Lennon, I'm gonna tell you, John Lennon invited Dick Gregory to be his spiritual guru, so to speak. He invited him to his mansion. He had a cave mansion in Europe. A cave mansion, right? And Dick went there and he detoxed John Lennon and Yoko Ono. And John Lennon was telling Dick Gregory about how they weaponized the music. He said the reason why the Beatles came to America was to get young people hooked on drugs. And you listen to their songs like Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds is about LSD. Hey Jude is about heroin. But they was brought right after the Kennedy assassination, JFK assassination, to come to hook the people on drugs because after the assassination, people started asking too many questions. It became too inquisitive. So to get people's minds out there, they got them on them drugs. Then he was killed. John Lennon was killed, but Yoko Ono told Dick Gregory, that after Dick intervened with John Lennon's drug problem, he never went back on drugs. He had a clear mind and conscious. And
He
actually
also
Dick
talked
gave him a
about.
prayer book that led to his a song called was that Imagine?
He
So he
also
was
talked
inspired by
about
Dick
his
Gregory.
work with Michael Jackson.
Yeah, he was real close to Michael Jackson too. I mean, he saved Michael Jackson's life the last time in 2005 he was on trial because Michael was afraid to eat anything. He was very dehydrated. So Dick, intervened, took him to a place in California to get him hydrated again.
Yeah.
So
he was very.
he said he was killed by a beam. I believe nobody dies a natural death in show business.
That's what they say. And why do you think that is? Why do you think that
because
is?
they made deals.
They made deals.
Yeah.
Like I guess you probably familiar with this guy Robert Johnson.
Yeah, I'm not that far. The clock's there at the crossroads, 64.
Okay.
I mean,
So
49 and 61, I think.
So do people actually make deals with the devil, as they said that he did? Like they said, I think he went out and he was a terrible player. Then he went on this trip and then he came back and he just, he was the greatest musician ever.
That's a good question. With Robert Johnson, he's like Dick Gregory almost. I mean, he's an enigma to me because it's not that much known about him, but there is some stuff known about him. Like, for example, his stepsister just wrote a book about him that was published not too long ago with a guy named Preston Lauterbach, a music journalist. And she's about almost 100 years old, but she is very, like, her mind is sharp. I don't know if she's still around, but she wrote that book about his family side. But with Robert Johnson's interest because he got good because he got a great master teacher to teach him. This guy named Ike Zinnerman. He went for a year to study with him. And Ike Zinnerman was known for playing in the graveyards at night. So there's even more spooky stuff to it. So Robert Johnson, I believe he just had work ethic. I don't know if he made a deal with the devil. But it's like, the thing about Robert, what's weird about the Robert Johnson thing is that he wasn't that well known when he was alive. He didn't sell that many albums or records. The biggest blues musicians were Petey Wheatstraw, who Robert Johnson sounded like a little bit. He was very popular. When Petey Wheatstraw died, they had him in national newspapers because Petey Wheatstraw got killed on his 39th birthday, making a beer run in East St. Louis. Him and his friends ran across the track, got hit they hit a train.
Wow.
So he died. He was just 39, but same age as King and Malcolm X. But his stuff made Billboard magazine and everything. But nobody talks about Petey Wheatstraw. But he's known himself. He used to call himself the High Sheriff of Hell, the devil's son-in-law. Now, the Petey Wheatstraw we know is Dolomite. Rudy Ray Moore's Petey Wheatstraw, but he got that from the musician.
Okay.
Petey Wheatstraw, because he called himself the High Sheriff of Hell too, the devil's son-in-law. He got that from the blues musician Petey Wheatstraw. But if you listen to Petey Wheatstraw, Robert Johnson, them sounded like they got that falsetto. And also you had Big Bill Broomsey, who was a great blues guitarist and vocalist of the 30s and 40s. But Robert Johnson was not that known because his death was not even newsworthy. Now, John Hammond, the guy who discovered Billie Holiday, Aretha Franklin, Bob Dylan, Bruce Springsteen, and so many other people, he wanted to get Robert Johnson booked in Carnegie Hall for his blues, his swings, spiritual to swing concert. He wanted to showcase black music and all his genres. And he wanted to showcase Robert Johnson. So he sent somebody down to Mississippi to find him. But by that time, he was already dead. So what John Hammond ended up doing, he took a record player and played some of Robert Johnson's music, I think Terraplane Blues and stuff like that. And Terraplane Blues sold about 5,000 copies during his lifetime, I think. But he didn't get his notoriety until decades later, right? With the so-called British invasion, with Eric Clapton and Keith Richards and the Rolling Stones, they took an interest in his music. So it was a revival back in the 60s for Robert Johnson.
And how did he die?
Well, they said he was poisoned by alcohol. Like he was a womanizer. He used to screw everything.
Okay.
He loved cats. Okay. And he was playing a gig in Greenwood, Mississippi. You talk about Greenwood, that dude got hanged.
Okay.
He was playing at a club called the Three Forks in Greenwood, Mississippi, or outside of Greenwood, Mississippi. This is back in August of 1938. And he was drinking liquor. Allegedly, he was messing around with the club owner's wife. So the club owner's wife allegedly poisoned his alcohol. He drunk it, he got real sick, ended up dying August 16th, 1938, at the age of 27. And they say he denounced Christ when he was a young man because his wife, Virginia Travis, died in childbirth. He lost his wife and his child. So they say he denounced God. And so, but at the end, he wrote a handwritten letter saying, God, please forgive me, and I accept you as my redeemer, and all that stuff, allegedly. So he
Okay.
died on August 16th, right? August 16th is the same death date of Elvis Presley, Aretha Franklin, and Babe Ruth. They all died August 16th.
Oh,
He died
wow.
at 27. The same Jimi Hendrix,
The
uh
27 Club.
yeah,
And
20, he
call
part of
it
the 27 Club. So I
27
mean,
Club.
he was made to be a legend, right? I guess he made a deal though. And his son, they ended up finding a son they had with a woman. They had did some DNA because it was a white guy named Steve Lever. I think he passed on several years ago. He was over his estate. Somehow he hoodwinked his biological sister out of the royalties for Robert Johnson's estate. So he actually had a son that came forward and won a court settlement, and he got control of the estate. This is back in the early 2000s. And that son passed on, but Robert Johnson's descendants, they got control of his estate. You can imagine, they're getting pretty good royalties off of that.
Yes, definitely. I'm gonna stop one more time. This is Awesome Radio 106.9 WBIS FM. Make sure you go to the website www.wbisawesomeradio.org. Here with the UTurn Show with my special guest, Brother Ron Hurd. Now, how do you retain all of that information? Because like you have a wealth of information on a myriad of such. We haven't even touched the surface. But what do you think attributes to your ability to retain all of that information that a lot of people don't know about?
I don't know, man. I'm a weirdo. That's probably I have no understanding. And let me know if I'm talking too fast. I have a tendency to talk fast. I know.
Nah.
Okay.
So you mentioned, we mentioned, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and
Mhm.
a couple of other well-known figures. But what about those figures like, as we talked about the other night, Robert Williams, who wrote Negroes with Guns, or David Walker, who wrote The Appeal, or some of the Deacons of Defense, or some of the people who were less passive. Why do you think that they don't teach that as much as they do?
This answer is sort of like they were too masculine, they're too manly. And look at Robert F. Williams and David Walker. They all came from North Carolina.
Yeah.
David Walker's from Wilmington. Well, they had
Okay.
that big race, in the Wilmington insurrection of 1898.
Yes.
Where the white Democrats overthrew the government. There was a fusion government between black people and white folks. And Wilmington was like the largest city in North Carolina. It was like what Atlanta is for black folks today, so to speak. And they overthrew, and that produced David Walker, and also that's where Michael Jordan was raised. So to let you know, well, Republicans buy shoes too. That's not his mindset. He came out of Wilmington. But the reason why Robert F. Williams talked about it, and you go on YouTube, it's an interview he did before he died. They talk about how he wanted Monroe, North Carolina to be Mount Vernon for black people. You know how Mount Vernon is for George Washington? He saw himself as being like a George Washington. Like he said himself, when we fought, like when he was active and shooting out with the Klan and the police down in North Carolina, they didn't lose nobody. They didn't lose nobody. They got into all types of shootouts. They got into many shootouts at their houses that the insurance company wouldn't even insure their cars or homes, because they're getting shot up all the time. But they didn't lose anybody, but they took stands. But he also said that the reason why they don't talk about him because he outlived King and Malcolm. These were his friends. They all died at 39. He died in his 70s. Allegedly of leukemia.
He also had to flee the country for a while, though, right?
Yeah, he had to flee the country. Matter of fact, my cousin Julian Mayfield, who's from South Carolina but raised in D.C., they used his car to get away, to get out of the country, because they was on the FBI most wanted list because they called themselves trying to save a white couple who was in the middle of a race riot in the black neighborhood. They kept them in their homes, and I don't know, they kept them at gunpoint, but they kept them there. Probably saved their lives, but the government said y'all kidnapped these white folks, and we're gonna put y'all as fugitives on the run. So they made the FBI most wanted list. But my cousin Julian Mayfield worked with Robert F. Williams. They met in Cuba before they knew Che Guevara and Fidel Castro. And my cousin would secure guns for Robert F. Williams from New York. I believe he was getting guns from Bumpy Johnson, the gangster. So I got a dissertation. His son sent me a dissertation that a guy wrote about his father. And so I have yet to read it, but my cousin is an interesting guy because he was an actor too. He starred in this movie that was kind of like Judas and the Black Messiah back in 1968. They starred him and Ruby Dee, and also the brother who passed away, who played, Goldie. The Goldie. The
Mac.
The Mac, yeah, the guy who played leading the Mac. He was in that movie. He was like a Fred Hampton character in that movie. It's kind of like art imitating life. It was life entertainment, imitating art. But my cousin was involved in helping them get out the country, drove them to Canada. They end up going, to Cuba, whatever. And Robert F. Williams is the reason why the United States have a relationship with China. Because after he left Cuba, and before he left Cuba, he did a thing called Radio Free Dixie. He started a radio program. This is where I got News Free Dixie from Robert F. Williams. But he started a radio program in Cuba. He tried to encourage enlisted black men in the United States Army to lead an insurrection, to overthrow the United States government. He was trying to do that from Cuba. So he ended up leaving Cuba and going to China. He was a guest of honor of Chairman Mao. He got all this intel about the Chinese government. And so he made a deal with the government to try to get back home because he was homesick. And so you had William Kunstler, the great defense lawyer, representing him in court, got him off those charges. He ended up securing a job at the University of Michigan. That gave him a job at the University of Michigan where he was a professor. I guess his expertise with Chinese relations and studies. But they used the intel that they got from Robert F. Williams to help Richard Nixon become the first sitting U.S. president to visit China.
Wow. So
that's a better story than Queen and Slim, man. I wish they told that story. Him and his wife was shooting it out and everything. Mabel Williams.
So with people like this, like Robert Williams and people who did so much, with everything that's going on now as far as civil rights goes, with everything we see about police brutality, racism, economic discrimination, all of those things. Where are the people like Robert Williams now? Or why is there a lack of?
I mean, because it's a fear of a black man, especially a black man that knows knowledge of self and got a plan and a plan of action. There's a fear of black masculinity. Like, why is it that James Baldwin lived to be 60-something, Malcolm, Mega, and Dr. King, his friends, died before they were 40? It's kind of like you go back to Good Times. They ain't want no black father on Good Times. They fought for that. I actually interviewed Eric Monty, who was the mastermind really behind Good Times. He wrote the screenplay for Cooley High, which is based on his story. He's from Cabrini Green Projects in Chicago.
Okay.
He hitchhiked to L.A. and they destroyed him. Norman Lear and them destroyed Eric Monty. He's still around, but he went to
Eric Monty. Was he a black man?
He's a black man. He's from Chicago, from the projects Cabrini Green Projects in Chicago, I believe.
Yeah.
So Cooley High is based on his life story. He wrote the screenplay for Cooley High. It's based on his story.
And you mentioned John Amos being a father on.
They didn't want a father on Good Time. They wanted to be a single mom, raising kids. But
So,
look, think about this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they gave James Evans the same lines they gave Michael Evans. Those lines that Michael, see, you know what I'm saying? Oh, he's cute. He's adorable. If James said that, oh my God.
It'd have been threatening.
Right, it was a threat, right? It's like James Baldwin. What James Baldwin saying it versus Malcolm Omega, because James Baldwin ain't no reproductive threat. He's gay.
Okay.
Allegedly. Now, Dick Gregory told me he wasn't gay. He was hustling, but I don't know. Dick Gregory told me a lot of stuff. I was like, I don't know, man.
And Dick Gregory had the inside scoop on a lot of things, though.
Huh?
He had the inside scoop on
a lot. But I can't, it's stuff that he told me. I ain't gonna get out there and say. I remember after Dick died, right? I was at Sirius headquarters in DC, and James Madison, the Black Eagle, he got a radio show out there, and he's on Sirius. And he said how Dick would tell him things. Okay, he told him, he said, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead because he's all right. He said that Michelle Obama was Michael.
Yeah, now I've heard that before. I've heard that. And that's blasphemy in a lot of parts.
Yeah, but I mean, James Madison, I ain't gonna put that on the air. But you know what Dick Gregory is? He'll say controversial stuff, but years later he's proven right a lot of times. I ain't saying all the time, but like for example, he told people that the polio vaccine gave folks cancer, and folks thought he was crazy. He actually wrote the offices of Senator Ted Kennedy, the senator from Massachusetts, part of the Kennedy clan, because Dick Gregory, they lived in Massachusetts, Plymouth, Massachusetts.
Okay.
He wrote them, and then he got a letter back from the offices of Ted Kennedy. He said, what you saying is true, but we didn't know what caused that in certain people.
Okay.
First, polio vaccine did cause cancer in some people.
Yeah. So you mentioned the black father. We're going to get on this too. Because James, you mentioned, how they wanted this particular image. Now they did have a great show in the early 80s called The Cosby Show.
Oh, yeah.
Which was the quintessential black family, the prototypical black family. But then later on, you see how they kind of destroyed that image by the Cosby case. So what and just recently you just informed me that what you said the U.S. Supreme Court said that they were not going to hear
they knew it was
the
nothing to
trial
it. But
again. So what do you think? What do you think really happened there, and why do you think that happened?
I mean, Bill Cosby railroad. I think the problem with Bill Cosby, he's a masculine black man. If you were like, say gay, it wouldn't be no scandal. It would be no problem. They would protect him, so to speak.
Mhm.
But because he was animate about having positive black images out there, that's why they got him. Like they said in the movie Malcolm X, it's too much power for one man to have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of things that Bill Cosby thing. He did try to buy NBC. People think that's an urban legend. You can go back, a New York Times article from the 90s. They talk about how he put together a group. He ain't try to buy by himself. He had a group of investors that wanted to buy NBC. So that's not an urban legend. That's actual real. It happened.
And then his son got killed.
That son got hit, right? Do you remember that girl Autumn Jackson came out and said she was the love child of Bill Cosby right after that?
Yes. Yeah.
And I think her mom was alleging Bill Cosby raped her too. See, we got to stop calling these people victims. They're accusers. Their case has never been proven. They're accusers. They accused Bill Cosby of doing these things. He didn't go to jail for rape. He went to jail for other stuff. It wasn't rape. It's like with Tupac. He didn't go to jail for rape. He went to jail for improper touching of the body. Because the rape kid proved he didn't rape her. It was consensual, whatever they did, but she just blamed. It's a lot to it. But what I'm saying, let's go back to Bill Cosby. Now, Bill Cosby ruffled a lot of people feathers the wrong way. I think the guy that CNN, used to be the president of CNN, Jeff Zucker, who just stepped down, he had a run in with Bill Cosby because CNN was real hard on Cosby as concerning all these allegations. And with Bill Cosby, you got to remember back in 2014, right? Bill Cosby had a deal with Netflix. He about to do a big time comedy tour. He had a TV show in the works. He had a lot of things going for him. But what happened was him and his wife, Dr. Camille Cosby, was very adamant against a gas company building a pipeline through their property. And they got together with other environmentalists and activists to protest. His wife wrote an op-ed back in March of 2014 that said that they stood in solidarity with the folks who were trying to protect the land. They're land conservationists, right? Cosby's own thousands and thousands of acres of land on the East Coast. They own a lot of land. So, by the end of the year, guess what? All these allegations start coming up. You had some nobody one time in coming named Hannibal Buress going viral. And Hannibal Buress never been. He been funny looking, never been funny. So how did Hannibal Buress did not bring down Cosby? The powers that be used him as a Trojan horse to bring down Cosby. This was not about women. Society does not care about protecting women.
Why do you say that?
You can look at how women act. Look how many women disappear every year or every day. Well, you know what I'm saying? Nobody care about. I'm not saying that you should care. We should, because the value, worth of a nation is by how they treat their women.
Yes, definitely.
What they man accompany, how you treat the women, because they the first teachers of the child. But look at how it's chaos among us.
Yeah. So why do we? And I just like you said, now it just came to my mind, like the value of a nation, of how they treat their women. Like I see how we treat women, like whether it's in the media, the videos, entertainment, stereotyping. We a lot of even, I hate to say it, but even in our music, we degrade women, and a lot of women actually take that moniker on. They what's the lady's name, Amber Rose, with the slut shaming, or she wants the right to be a slut or whatever, and they're championing these things. So is that a source of what you're saying is we don't treat women or we don't care about the way women are treated just because of the way we treat women?
I mean, lots of that. It's like a lot of women I have met women that said if a man don't hit them or try to start a fight with him, he don't love her.
I've heard that same thing.
These women are not they're not necessarily we call ratchet. These some educated women. They came from, I think, seemingly good homes. But you never can tell by people's appearances what they've been through, a lot of times. Traumas and stuff and learned behaviors. That's why I say I'm a weirdo, but everybody's weird to me. It's on the spectrum like autism. It's like it's different levels of weirdos and being weird, because there's no normalcy. Because everybody normal is really dysfunctional.
Exactly, and it's a big thing about mental health right now, right?
Oh man,
And I've
yeah.
heard somebody say that there's no way to be healthy in a sick society.
No,
Do you agree or disagree?
I definitely agree. Everybody's sick. You know what I'm saying? Like that. This is suicide rates, man. I mean, I know about the celebrities like Regina King's son and other people killing themselves. Even one of Dick Gregory grandsons killed himself not too long ago. Committed suicide. He was a young man. He was like a teenager. Um, I don't know what they're putting out here in our water and our air. It's something that's going on. Like I said, it's spiritual warfare. Because folks are giving in, giving up, and giving out. It's like we're doing it too easy.
So and you mentioned about like even I know Dick Gregory talked a lot about the chemtrails and the the HARP and things like that. So do you actually think those things are happening, and why don't people believe that? From all the history that we've seen with this government, why are people so hesitant to think that the people who we trust can really be doing things to our detriment?
I mean, because like think about the people that you trust, the same folks that told you that Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy was real are people that you trust. You know what I'm saying? So people been lying to you all the time, abusing your trust. So I don't like to know is to be responsible. Like you gotta have some type. Nobody want that type of responsibility, accountability, to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? Like if you look at sports, on a certain level, they are fixed. They rigged. It's sports entertainment. Roger Goodell says sports entertainment.
Sports and entertainment.
Yeah. So I mean, like it's not. It's like the Rock when the Super Bowl, right? The Rock introduced the Super Bowl this year. They let you know it's fake. He's a wrestler. He's an entertainer. He's an athlete. You know what I'm saying? And then hey, I'm not saying everybody throwing the game. Everybody's not in on a joke. It's some people that's not in. Most of the people are not in on a joke. It's like you look at a game. It don't have to be the players doing point shaving. It could be the officiating. It's how they officiate the game, missing certain calls, making certain calls. They're doing stuff to control the flow.
Yeah, they said like even with the Super Bowl, like because it was in LA, then of course they it would have been it would have been non dramatic if LA wouldn't have won. It was set up.
They made it crazy when they didn't call when that dude did that. The cornerback grabbed him by the helmet and he caught the ball and ran in for a touchdown. They could not allow them to win after that. And
exactly.
They knew what I'm saying? Like it would be too controversial. Now they do bad calls and people like look how the Patriots started their dynasty with the Raiders and stuff.
Yeah,
but they were playing even their call back in 2001. Just
real quick, man, I'm going to end the radio show, but we're going to keep this going. We've had a special guest, Ron Hurd, here on the UTurn Show. Make sure you turn in to us next week. We have another guest, but if you want to know more information about this gentleman, go to We All Be TV. We All Be TV on YouTube. You'll be able to find out more about them. But once again, we thank y'all for listening. We'll see y'all next week.
Lord, I need you to smile on me. Lord, I'm bleeding. Tell me where you want me to go.
Can you hear me, Brother Ron?
I can hear you, man. It went by fast, man.
Well, we still live on Facebook though, so we got to keep
still on Facebook. Okay, good. Okay.
Because you mentioned something about the politics and Obama. So what do you think about Obama's tenure and the people's faith in him? What did he really do for Black people? Do you think?
He didn't do nothing for Black Americans who folks come from the soil, from the mud. He did nothing for us but be a symbol. Kind of like he's got a TV show. We talked about the Huxtables and the Cosby Show. It's a nice symbol. Him, his beautiful family was or is, but there's no substance to it. Obama did not do. He could have Joe Biden's make him look bad with the Supreme Court thing. He could have been done that. But the thing about Obama is that he's not beholden to Black people or the people. His masters are Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs financed his campaign back in 2008. So them justices he appointed to the Supreme Court all got Goldman Sachs connections.
And that's what people don't understand. Like people, right. I tell people this all the time. You can vote for a person, but unless you are financing their campaign, they're not obligated to you. He's going to answer those people that donated millions of dollars to his campaign rather than you who voted, but you have no power no economic power for him to answer to. Like I think he bailed out the banks and the car
Oh,
industry.
yeah, he gave them bonus. They got bonuses off of him and Bush. You
Yes.
know, the people kept on telling them not to bail out the banks. So, you know, I remember that, you know, everything collapsed in 2008. The people were saying do not, the constituents, so-called constituents, we not really, they don't answer to us. We told them not to bail them out. And they did it anyway. And they rewarded themselves with bonuses, these crooks.
Yeah. So now, even with the Supreme Court justice that he's appointing, it's almost like putting a black face on a white system, if that makes sense. Because
that makes a lot of sense. Yes.
You know, like we've had Clarence Thomas up there for years. You know, it's hard to change the system. I guess like people always say, well, you got to get in the system to change the system, but it seems to me like once you get in the system, if you go against that system, they're going to get rid of you. Like I guess Ron Brown, or I guess what was his name? I think Colin Powell resigned too. So what do you think about that when people get into those systems, those high positions, and it either they don't expect change, they don't expect the change, or they just go with the flow to keep their position?
Yeah, you can't reform a system that's working the way it's supposed to work. You got to start over from scratch. And there's a lot of us don't want to do that because if you think of, for example, like I was like this right here. I got this Ida B. Wells doll. You know, I don't collect. I'm a big fan of Ida B. Wells. This Barbie doll. Okay. Got about 4 of these things. You know what I'm saying? But if Ida B. Wells came back today, black folks would hate her worse than Candace Owens. And she for black people. And Ida B. Wells loved black folks. She loved black masculine men. But if she came back today, black folks today would have a problem with Ida B. Wells because she tried to hold us accountable. Not only hold these devils in the system accountable, but she tried to hold black folks accountable and bear some responsibility for self-determination and free will. We don't like that accountability. A lot of us don't. It's like Malcolm. We don't like what Malcolm had to say a lot of times. It was tough love. And but the thing about it is we love white folks more than we hate ourselves.
Wow. We love white folks more than we hate ourselves. So break that down a little bit. Like,
think about it. Like a problem. White folks told us that something was wrong with them. Whites only, stay away. We're trying to help you out. Whites only, keep away from. We crazy. We want to be with you. I don't want to be with you. All this crap. It's like Stockholm syndrome. A lot of our problem is that we won't be around white folks at all costs. I didn't say hate white people. I'm saying when you classify white, it's like when black folks think that black folks can be racist. I can't be racist. I could be hateful. And racism don't have nothing to do with hate. It's about power.
Explain that. What is racism to the layman that people
racism
think?
Racism is a system that favors a certain group of people for whatever reason. It could be because they purple, because they white, they blue, they rich, or whatever. It's whatever system that favors a certain group of people that give them leverage and access that denies majority of the people. That leverage and whoever's in power, they get to make the rules. They get to sign out checks, right? Shaq is rich, but Steve Ballmer is wealthy.
Yeah, and what do you think about that that entertainment as well? Because there was a situation with a black head coach that
Brian
Flores got fired or whatever. So what do you think about that? And I know Dr. Eric Michael Dyson wrote a book one time called $40 Million Slaves. So what do you think about the sports industry and how it affects us? Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't know. I mean, like, why is it fun for people to destroy their bodies for people's entertainment? Why is it okay for people to destroy them? And like, why do people concern how much money Dak Prescott made? They ain't paying him enough money to destroy his body.
But then you got people on the end of the spectrum say, hey, with that $100 million, he can create generational wealth. He can provide for his family. He can make generational changes, even changes in the community.
I mean, if you can't remember you played in the Super Bowl when you're 40, I don't know what type of change you can make. You can't walk up no stairs without no knees. I know a guy named Dr. Curtis McClinton. He played in the first Super Bowl for the Kansas City Chiefs. He won the first Super Bowl with the Kansas City Chiefs. He scored the first touchdown for the American Football Conference in the Super Bowl I. And he's a brilliant man, a scholar, opera singer, all that stuff. Politician, worked with Jim Brown for economic empowerment, but when I went to his man cave, he had to slide down the steps because his knees were all messed up. He had no cartilage really in his knees, so he couldn't even walk down. And he slide down the steps.
And I had a close friend who played, about 10 seasons in the NFL. And I used to see him after the games, when we were about to leave, he would try to get up out of bed. Sometimes they had to hold the wall.
He had like ice packs on his knees and stuff. Like
go get treatment. So that's something, but also it's also affecting our children, because I think everybody who comes up, what they do, they watch football or basketball. Everybody want to be the next LeBron James, and parents, push these kids to athletics, knowing there's only like 0.00000 chance that you're going to make it to a professional level. And when that doesn't happen, the kid gets let down. They, because most high school stars won't go to college or won't go to the league, but they've been getting all this praise. And then when it doesn't happen, that sends them into a downward spiral. But also the conversation of grown men. I hear grown men talking about sports day in and day out. Oh, who's this? Who's the best this? What about the yours? All of that energy and time and effort, remembering all these stats and, analyzing who, what LA should do with Westbrook, could be used to better the environment around us. Why use all of that energy into something that, once again, doesn't matter? It's just entertainment.
I mean, because we're in a state of arrested development. Black men are not allowed to reach their prime mentally and spiritually, let alone physically, a lot of times. Like we talked about Malcolm and Martin down at 39, or got killed at 39. Medgar Evers got killed at 37. Patrice Lumumba get killed in his 30s. Black men are not allowed to mature in a system. We're treated like Peter Pan. We're not allowed to grow up. We're like man-child, really. We're not allowed to be real patriarchs of our family. We never have been allowed to be real patriarchs. But the thing about it is, people talk about black woman magic and all this stuff, black girl joy or black girl magic. If it was for black men, you wouldn't have a platform to create your magic. You think about some of the best fathers in the world are black men. You look at King Richard, what he did with the Williams sisters. Now, people say, well, he didn't take care of his other kids. He gave us the Williams sisters, okay? It's like Tiger Woods' dad had some other kids too, but Earl Woods gave us Tiger Woods. You know what I'm saying? Something about a black man. You look at Matthew Knowles with Beyonce. It wasn't her mama that believed in her. It was her father. He quit his executive six-figure job to create a career. The mama thought he was crazy, but look at Beyonce now. So it's the power of the black man to dictate terms. And really, we could be gods, but we play ourselves small. Because if you can run a football the way you can run, you can lift weights and do all these amazing things, jump out the building, how come you ain't running nothing but your mouth? How come the people that make the most money in what you do well ain't you? Like I look at, I remember reading something about the pandemic. Like a lot of athletes lost money during the pandemic, but a lot of the owners, like in basketball, made a lot of money. Steve Ballmer, who's friends with Bill Gates, his business partner, he made billions of dollars during the pandemic. The Clippers don't win no championship, but he didn't lose no money either. So I mean, it's a weird game they play on. It's a weird trick because, like, as for example, like LeBron James and Warren Buffett can walk into a restaurant. Who will people recognize more?
LeBron James.
But who got the most money? Who got more money?
Warren Buffett.
Right, but I'd rather be him than LeBron then.
Yeah. But a lot of people wouldn't though. Like I said, a lot of people are basing, their everyday life on what they see, what's in front of them, and they try to chase those things. Where, hold on, let me read a couple of these comments as well. Callie Hurd says, "Excellent show."
Dr. Hurd, right? My mom, mom will love, right?
My mom says, "Rechannel the energy." Our good friend Felicia Mitchell said, Richard, David Rose gave us a thumbs up. Said she's been to Saginaw. And so I definitely thank all of y'all for commenting and interacting with the show. But also, you mentioned, like I said, you mentioned the music, right? With the Beatles and everything. What do you say to us? Because like we listen to a lot of music, and a lot of music has, some detrimental qualities. So even though the music is good, like we were talking about Young Dolph before, how, and a lot of these rappers, they make good music, but the content, kind of promotes death, promotes, misogyny, promotes self-destruction, really.
Yep.
So and the good ones who rap about consciousness are not promoted. Why is that?
I mean, think about it. Tomorrow will be the anniversary. Would it be like what, the 25th? I can't believe it's 25 years since they killed Notorious B.I.G. in LA. So March the 9th is upon us. And think about what was the name of his first album?
Ready to Die.
Yeah, and what's the name of his second album?
Life After Death.
When did that album come out?
It came out after he died.
So he spoke that into existence. So you ain't rappers, they casting spells. They don't know they casting spells. Because your words create worlds. We can't compare ourselves to white people because, I'm not gonna mistake Robert De Niro or Al Pacino for gangsters. They play gangsters in movies, or Joe Pesci, but I don't, I'm not gonna, if I take them to court, I'm gonna use their movie roles against them to send them to jail for football numbers. But they are doing it to rappers though. Rappers going to court, they getting their lyrics used against them to put them in prison. That's insane. Why is that a rapper gotta live up to some things that actors like De Niro and Pacino don't have to live up to? Everybody know they just actors. They know Al Pacino ain't Scarface, but they want to believe Scarface the rapper is Scarface. Or any of them guys. But even like you look at Pop Smoke, right? I never heard of really Pop Smoke until he got popped in smoke.
Yeah.
Exactly. And he was very talented. It's a waste. You know what I'm saying? So like you speak this, your words create worlds, and black folk, we don't have the power of life and death resides in the tongue. You know what I'm saying? So it's different for us versus them because we got a unique connection.
We got a unique connection with the creator.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But we don't really appreciate that though. If you are the original people, if everybody came out of you, then you supposed to set the standard. And we did set the standard, but we forgot that we knew that we knew.
Yeah, but because of what has been done in this country, we've traded our likenesses for their likenesses. Like I think, like you mentioned, the Scarface movies or things like that. They were put on TV and kind of mesmerized, and also Hollywood, like you said, cast spells. I think I think it may have been one of your shows that we were talking about Hollywood. Hollywood was the wood that they used to cast spells from people, and that's why they even actors talking about refining their craft,
right?
Of the spells that television puts on people. So we have been, I guess, I know a lot of times I'm the first to say it a lot of times, like the music and the movies, that caused me to want to do the things I saw or hear. And next thing you know, I was doing stuff. I'm like, why am I doing this? But hey, I feel like I should do. I feel like this is what I'm supposed to do. So when do you stop? When do you start? When does the blame end? Or is there equal blame on both sides? Is the blame us or the dominant society for the positions that they put us in and the images that they create and the the persuasion, the advertisement? Like I said, advertisement is a very important tool. They talk about how even in movie theaters, like before you sit down, there's little things blinking on the screens that says eat Coke and drink popcorn, but you won't see them. But next thing you know, you're eating Coke and drinking popcorn. So where does the bucket of blame lie?
I mean, that's a great question. I think that just gotta understand, you just gotta analyze things the best you can. I know I was reading Snoop Dogg's autobiography that came out years ago, and he remember seeing the first time seeing Scarface in the movie theater, and he said, "Man, for some of y'all think that's escapism and fantasy. For me, that was a reality. I saw that as being an option. He wanted to be Scarface. It's like with Melvin Van Peebles passed away last year. He did that revolutionary movie, Sweetback, Badass Song, whatever. And he had Earth, Wind, and Fire do the soundtrack. They was known like they are now. And Bill Cosby helped finance that movie. And it's supposed to be about being revolutionary, being a people's hero, people's champ. And then they flipped that from Sweetback, Badass Song to Superfly. Went from being want to be revolutionaries to being pimps and drug dealers. And that's by design. Catchy soundtrack, my cousin's Curtis Mayfield, so he did catchy soundtrack. I mean, but you also had balance. You speak of somebody like Curtis Mayfield, they did civil rights anthems too. They did everything. They're not just doing the dope. I'm your mama. I'm the pusher man. He doing all types of anthems to uplift black people and humanity. You had a balance. Marvin Gaye, you had balance. Tupac even had balance. You know what I'm saying? You look at the stuff he did, but now it's just like, well, Kanye said on Drink Champs, how they putting certain things in like the 808s, the beats, the vibrations, and the chakras and stuff. Music does influence your behavior. People act like it does.
Yes. And so you came up in the what they Memphis is what called Music City, right?
But that's Nashville, but
That's Nashville.
there's more. I tell you, there's more recorded songs about Memphis and Memphis related stuff than any place in America, in American music history. You got more songs about Memphis stuff than you do about New York or Chicago, LA. Memphis is a very powerful place. It's an epicenter for culture and all types of commerce and stuff. We're in the middle of the country, so everything comes through here. Like I said, FedEx is headquartered here, but also the culture. Like, folks coming from Mississippi and Arkansas, making their way on to Chicago, whatever. Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, 3-6 Mafia, whatever. Elvis Presley. All this come through here. And but it's crazy. People call Memphis the land of the dead. It's some silly stuff. But you look at Memphis and Memphis, Egypt, they both was commerce. They was centers of education, religion, and economics. So the white Masons who founded Memphis knew why they named it Memphis.
Mm-hmm. And let's get to you a little bit, because your first is the artivist, right?
Mm-hmm.
So where did that name come from? Where did that nickname?
I mean, I just got that through college, I think, because I said I'm an artist and an activist. I call myself the artivist. Now I've seen other places use that, but if we ever got to go to court for trademark, I started doing this back in 1998. Here's the proof. Here's the newspaper article. How long y'all been using that? So like, this is the thing, because like my thing is, some of our greatest artists are also advocates for humanity. Like, our greatest figures like Paul Robeson. People talk about Sidney Poitier, but Paul Robeson was a giant among giants. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like my cousin them learned from Paul Robeson. Him and Harry Belafonte, Sidney Poitier, they all at his feet. Paul Robeson was one of the first Black All-American football players. Was a lawyer, graduated head of the class, could speak over 20 different languages fluently, had one of the greatest singing voices of all time, and was a movie star in his own right, but he gave all that up to speak out against injustice and stand up for Black people. And they beat him down for it.
Did he get exiled?
He got, they did a lot of things to Paul Robeson. They destroyed his career, got blackballed. They took away his passport, so he couldn't make money traveling, doing his thing. They tried to poison him in Russia, and he almost committed suicide under the influence of drugs, the CIA. So after that poison attempt to try to kill him, he was never the same. It's like what Dizzy Gillespie said in his autobiography, The Great Musician. He said, basically they did Dr. King and Malcolm a favor, but they really tortured Paul Robeson.
Okay.
Paul Robeson lived to be almost 80 years old, but they tortured that man. They tortured him. But you look at who he came out of, who his people is. His daddy was a prominent minister up in Princeton, New Jersey. He also was a former slave. And his mom came from a prominent Black Philadelphia family of abolitionists and stuff. So he came from a very powerful bloodline.
He had that deep history, whereas he couldn't run away from it with all of his accomplishments. Like you said, athlete, lawyer, singer, actor. Why don't people do that today? Like we talk about Muhammad Ali. But Muhammad Ali said,
"Show you what happened to Paul Robeson. You just talk about Muhammad Ali. That's hell. A lot of people that you trying to help ain't gonna understand, because they wouldn't do that. That dude's a fool for things. White folks ain't that bad. They getting that check. You know how they people think they get that money. But like, I remember LeBron said he wanted to be like he wanted to be like Muhammad Ali. I said, man, he don't want to be like Muhammad Ali. Be broke in your prime. No, you don't want. Muhammad Ali went through hell. It took away 3 years of his prime. Mm-hmm. Tell him what he could accomplish, but he stood up for something out of principle, and you got to respect it. That's why he's the greatest. But with Paul Robeson, Malcolm X learned how to do public speaking. Listen to Paul Robeson. That's the story.
Okay.
He listened him on the radio. That's how he learned how to do his public speaking. And he was an admirer of Paul Robeson too. Malcolm was. And Malcolm wasn't. He had an entertaining background. Like I said, he used to play drums, jazz drums for Billie Holiday and people like that.
Oh wow. Okay.
When he had do his rallies up in Harlem, he had like entertainers open for him, like Max Roach and Abby Lincoln, and even Esther Roll, the lady who played the Mama in Good Times. She used to act before a Malcolm X speech in his rallies. So Malcolm had an interesting relationship with entertainers. Now he criticized entertainers, but a lot of entertainers helped him behind the scenes. like Sidney Poitier, Lena Horne, people like that.
And I know you saw the movie, and Felicia Mitchell says you are both very intelligent and wise. With
I guess I don't know, man. Probably you are, but I'm just lucky.
The thing probably Godfather and Harlem.
Oh yeah, Bumpy Johnson.
Yeah, but do you think there's any credence to that, or do you have any information on that?
They did. From my understanding, if you Gil Noble's interviewed a lot of Malcolm's people. You know, Gil Noble's a great black media pioneer ancestor now. I think he interviewed people like Earl Grant. It was close to Malcolm. They said they did have a relationship. Like Bumpy was, cause I mean, Malcolm used to be a hustler back in the day. He knew of Bumpy Johnson. Bumpy knew of him. And I think Bumpy did offer him protection on several occasions. And he turned him down. So, like, you know, that's a TV show, but what I like about stuff like that, it gets you interested in doing research. And if you got some type of intellectual curiosity to find out what is the truth for yourself. I know I talked to Malcolm's nephew, Rodnell Collins. I need to call him, actually. I talked to him about 2 years ago, and I'll tell him about the Godfather Harlem. I said, the dude played Malcolm, looks like him kind of, but his head is big and he's short. He said, man, don't say, all right, he was a good actor. I ain't gonna tell you, I ain't gonna say nothing. You know, but he got a big head. But I said the best actors have big heads. Like, you look at a leading man, a lot of times their heads are big. Look at Ben Affleck, he got a big old head. You know, they think about it, feel the screen. You know how you see some of these actors, they got big heads, but when you see them in person, they short. They're real short.
But that's all they need.
Yeah, it's illusion, right? You talking about the casting the spells, right?
Yeah.
Deception. But with that, the Godfather Harlem is a good place to start because, you know, Bumpy Johnson's widow actually wrote a book several years ago before she died. Mamie Johnson, she actually wrote a book with her sister from Harlem about her life with Bumpy.
Wow. And so with the Malcolm X thing, I also his grandson.
Yeah, Malcolm Shabazz. Malcolm Lakeith Shabazz. Yeah.
What happened to his grandson?
He was murdered probably by the CIA.
And was there suspicious circumstances, right?
Yeah. I mean, he was down. He should have never been down in Mexico City by himself. First and foremost, he was in a foreign country. He just got killed during a bar fight or outside a bar. The cameras never work as usual. You're beaten to like a pulp. That whole thing is strange, man. You know, he died. He was just 28, but they were trying to make sure he didn't follow in his grandfather's footpaths.
But wasn't he was trying to put together something though, right? Wasn't he trying to work on some activism stuff?
He was like allegedly before he got killed, you know, he was denied entry. He was denied, you know, a chance to go to Iran for a movie festival. But you know, that same year, Lifetime came out with that propaganda movie called Betty and Coretta about the so-called close relationship between Betty and Coretta. It wasn't even like that. You know, it's like, you know, that. But in the movie, it shows the grandson setting the fire to the apartment that ended up killing his grandmother. And the boy was looked a lot more older in that movie because like they were trying to do a couple things. They're trying to, you know, point all the fingers at Farrakhan, saying Farrakhan was the mastermind behind killing Malcolm. Now Farrakhan was a tool, and you know, I ain't, you know, because like he played into, you know, into the environment. Farrakhan can't escape that part of his legacy because he actually wrote a newspaper article in the paper that Malcolm founded, calling for his death.
Oh wow!
You can read this online. They had a cartoon of Malcolm X head with devil horns bouncing down the street, and basically said, you know, this calls for death. He betrayed the messenger, and Malcolm trained Minister Farrakhan. Malcolm wanted Farrakhan and Muhammad Ali to leave with him. The way, you know, Farrakhan speaks is like he uses Malcolm. He tried to talk like Malcolm.
Yeah,
you know, Malcolm trained him. He was one of Malcolm's ministers.
Wow. And also Dr. King's mother. A lot of people don't, and I just learned this, you know, a few years ago, maybe once again for watching you. So a lot of people don't know that she was killed at a piano in the church. Is that right?
Yeah, the Ebenezer, she was the organ dude, a Hebrew Israelite from Ohio, shot her. Now the King family went through a lot of stuff, man. It's like even before he was born, the government was already watching his family. They started watching his maternal grandfather back in the 1910s and 20s before he was born. They thought he was a person trying to overthrow the government.
And so he was pretty much a target from birth.
Yeah, basically. I mean, you probably had all type of spies going to Morehouse students and teachers. You know, because Dr. King was interested because You know, a lot of his biggest enemies and adversaries were other black ministers. They couldn't stand Dr. King. I remember Reverend Wright came to speak here in Memphis at University of Memphis back April 3rd, 2009, the day before this anniversary of King's death. He said in Chicago, a lot of prominent black ministers, when they heard King got killed, they were celebrating with their congregation. You know, they sent Dr. King daddy up to Montgomery during the Montgomery bus boycott to calm him down and bring him back to Atlanta and put him in the pulpit and put a leash on him. And Dr. King, to his credit, stood his ground against his father. And his father years later said that he let his son with his own man.
So why do you think they was trying to shut him up? Because of, you know, they didn't want the heat to come down on them, or
I mean, a lot of it, you know, is hate and envy. Like with Dolph, I mean, a lot of this stuff is envy and hate. And also, you know, he started towards the end. King was one of the least popular people in America because of his stand on Vietnam. And, you know, a lot of his support dried up. I remember reading that he called a meeting of ministers in Virginia for the Poor People campaign, the plan strategy for that, and nobody showed up. He called on 100 ministers, nobody showed up. And they did things to sabotage him at every turn. And then he got killed in Memphis. And the government killed him because the gun that was used to kill Dr. King came from the FBI.
Yeah.
So that is, you know, like the CIA killed Kennedy. I mean, if you fire one of the top CIA people and then you go to his brother's hometown, his brother, by the way, is the mayor of Dallas. The CIA guy you fired, brother, is the mayor of Dallas.
The CIA guy he fired.
Yeah, Charles Cable. He fired Alan Dulles. He was the director of the CIA, and also one of his lieutenants, Charles Cable. He's like number 3 or 2 man in the CIA. And so they went to Dallas. Charles Cable, brother Earl Cable, was the mayor of Dallas at the time.
Okay.
So that you know, I mean, and the security always compromised in these things. Like even with Kennedy, his Secret Service was compromised. King used to have all black police detail when he was in Memphis. When he got shot in Memphis, he had no protection. Malcolm normally would have like three dozen police up in his rallies at the Audubon. There was no police around until he got shot. So it's something about security being compromised in these type of situations. And then the crime scenes are always contaminated.
Mm-hmm. And they said Malcolm was shot like from different angles too, right?
They were saying, according to Dick Gregory, he said the CIA actually killed Malcolm the day checked out the Audubon a week before he was going to do his speech, and that the shots actually came from above.
Yeah,
like the black guys were shooting blanks. They were like coming toward. So he said the shots actually came from above. Mm-hmm. And you know what's crazy? Like they had a black church had a dance that same night in the same space. Like they still had bullets inside the wall. The cops didn't care about Malcolm. You know, and the only reason they had a trial was because one of his bodyguards, Reuben Francis, shot Tamal Hayer in the leg that slowed him down. Because they ain't supposed to have no murder trial for Malcolm.
Oh, okay. He was really supposed to get away.
They're supposed to get away, yeah. Matter of fact, he's out now. You know, it released him like maybe 10 years ago. He got a new family. He's an older gentleman, but he got a new family. You know, he got a young family now in Brooklyn.
Yeah,
but the government did
also released something that's saying that, you know, the FBI took or the CIA took responsibility.
Well, you know, they had a thing with this guy named Ray Woods. He was undercover NYPD. They had a thing called the Bossy program. That's like the NYPD's COINTELPRO, Bureau of Special Services, and something I forgot what the initiatives or whatever. But allegedly, he wrote a death letter that was read with Ben Crump and some of Malcolm's family. I believe at what is now known as the Malcolm and Betty Shabazz Center. Used to be known as the Audubon, where they killed Malcolm. And he confessed to being a part of a conspiracy to compromise the security of Malcolm X that day, because he got some people involved, like 2 of Malcolm's lieutenants that would have protected him probably that day were arrested for allegedly planning to blow up New York City landmarks. Now, this is the same stuff that got Tupac Mom and the Panther 21 on. And Malcolm's chief bodyguard was Gene Roberts, who was NYPD undercover, Bossy. He set up Tupac's mom and the Panther 21 too.
Okay, so
he was Malcolm's chief bodyguard, Eugene Roberts.
Yeah, I heard of him. Him. Yeah. So Fred Hampton,
right?
They just did a movie about him, and this betrayal. He was also pretty much infiltrated and set up by one of his own, right?
I guess. I mean, like he never brought the Kool-Aid. You know, he never bought into the program. William O'Neal, he was an FBI agent, provocateur.
Okay.
No, he was a car thief. He got caught up with the law, and the feds compromised him and made him a agent provocateur. He joined the Panther Party. He did gain the trust of Fred Hampton. He was part of his security team. So he's the one that gave the floor plan to the FBI, who gave it to the Chicago Police Department to raid or come do a morning raid in the wee hours on December 4th, 1969. They basically slaughtered Fred Hampton and Mark Clark while they slept. And his pregnant fiance was pregnant with his namesake, and he was born just several weeks later on December 29th, Fred Hampton Jr. Fred Hampton was watched by the government since he was like 14 years old. They used to tap his phones and stuff because he was such a charismatic guy. He was able to organize young people up in Maywood for the NAACP Youth Council. And he led all types of activism. I think he had a chance to work with King when King came into Chicago for the housing movement back in '66. Mm-hmm. And I think King was very impressed with people like Fred Hampton and Stokely and all them because they were young, but they also had the energy and just to get up and go. Fred Hampton mama used to babysit Emmett Till when he was little.
Okay.
Yeah, I spoke to his mom about 12 years ago, something like that. It time go by so fast, but she's passed on. She died in 2016. But I just thanked her for her son, And I talked to Fred Hampton's brother, interviewed him. They all gone now. The mama.
Well, Fred Hampton Jr., he's doing some things right now, is he?
Yeah, he definitely involved. Like he said, the Hampton House is his father's childhood home. I think that's the headquarters in Maywood. That movie Judas and Black Messiah helped out the cause as well. He's always been active, but he's been targeted too. Now he spent some time in prison back in the 90s. They set him up over some BS. And they were trying to kill him in prison as well, like they did like his father. They don't want us to have bloodlines, man. You look at the King family, they only have one grandchild. Look at Malcolm family. Why are the male grandchildren at?
Yeah.
Right. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I mean, the trauma. Kennedys, they still kill Kennedys, man. And they still having kids, though. They still kill them. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, it's warfare. And I'll tell black people, like I've been watching Yellowstone with Kevin Costner. It's a Paramount Network TV show. Black folks need to watch that and learn how this system is so gangster, man. You gotta understand the psyche of the people that run this system.
What's it called again?
Yellowstone. It's about this rancher who owns a lot of land near the Yellowstone Park, but he be doing some dirty stuff. Like not only are they bending the law, but they breaking the law, but they justify it because they said it's about self-preservation. Ain't about right or wrong. It's about what you can get away with. It's not a crime unless you get caught. I'm not saying, but black people, we all like in the show, like people get killed. They're not saying, man, I forgive them. They say, let's get some revenge. Black folk, we forgive people all the time. They don't care about their forgive. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being compassionate and having empathy, but at the same time, I don't understand people. Your kids get blown up in the church. You gonna forgive the people that blew up your kids in the church doing Sunday school?
Yeah.
That's weird. People say like, well, young Dolph got killed at the cookie shop. I said, folks get killed at the barbershop, basketball game, concert. Death is everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it ain't about him being in the hood. It's about you just got people that ain't for you. You gotta know thy enemy and know thyself at the same time, because you could be an enemy to yourself by not appreciating who you are, and knowing who you are, and knowing your worth and protecting yourself.
Yeah, and you mentioned like you said the raids and breaking the law. Like we got the Breonna Taylor, which I was thinking about when you talked about the Fred Hampton thing. We got all of these. Most recently I'm pretty sure you know about the Amir Locke situation.
There's so many of them, man. It's kind of strange.
So
what really changed, man?
What has changed, and everybody, once again, we celebrated when they convicted the George Floyd guy, Derek Parker. But all the while that they were doing that trial, like there were so many other instances still happening. But we like you said, a lot of times we get emotional of a symbolic thing that happens, but nothing has changed. We still got these things. And actually, I think they just had the trial of Breonna Taylor, and not even for her death, but it was for shooting in the next apartment and hitting some white people or something like that. They never charged her for a death. So with those things, like you said, what do we, what do we have to do to I guess, make it stop, or even,
Yeah, you gotta be willing to not only die but kill. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't want to talk. See, like, white folks, they celebrate their killers. They make holidays for them. They give them all types of medals. We don't want to talk about black folks. They fight back because, oh man, it's like it was a black dude, right? Mark Essex.
Okay.
Black Panther down in New Orleans, in the early 70s. He was the Hojo shooter. He went to the Howard Johnson siege by himself. They had to bring in a SWAT team and helicopter with machine guns to kill him. One person. But he fought back because the Panthers were getting killed and harassed by the police down there. And he was a Navy man. He got all types of harassment and trauma while he was in the Navy. As a black man, he was from Emporia, Kansas, I believe.
Okay.
And the guy, he just went one day. He killed some black cops. He killed some white cops. And then they machine gunned him on top of the Hojo, the Howard Johnson. And they just shot so many rounds into him that he was plastered to the top of the building.
Wow.
But they're trying to figure out, was it one person did all this, or did he have help? So to this day, they don't really know if it was one person that did that. He had a whole New Orleans PD scared. They brought in SWAT team, and a helicopter for one black man. And like, they went to his apartment. He had all these writings and stuff on his wall. And folks thought he was crazy. I said, they made him crazy. He's a product of his environment. Military makes you into a killer. So he got some really good training. But I'm saying, but he's a monster. But Andrew Jackson and stuff he did to black folks and Indians, he's a hero.
Yeah.
He's a president of the United States. It's like that scene in Godfather where Michael Corleone walking down the street with Kate, played by Diane Keaton. This is the first Godfather. And he was talking about how his daddy had aspirations for him to be like a U.S. senator or even probably president or something like that. And then she said, and she's a kindergarten teacher or something like that. He said, well, Michael, the president doesn't kill people. And he looked at that and said, who's a naive one, Kate? I mean, because she's a teacher. She's teaching babies. And she said, the president don't kill people.
Wow.
Presidents do kill people. They just make it,
they make
it's like with Russia, man. It's like, I can't call Putin evil. Cause I don't trust the media narrative on stuff. He has his reasons. He got to protect the interests of his country. Like, they should be protecting the interests of our country, but they don't.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I don't know.
So, you mentioned Putin and the Ukraine, like you said, the media. Like,
I don't trust that
stuff. You don't mess with it. Like, so we got so many problems over here. Why are we worried about that over there?
Well, black folks need to start putting ourselves first, because you can't help nobody if you can't help yourself. We always be in a disadvantage. They always bringing over. You got homeless people on Skid Row in L.A. You just had a Super Bowl in a $5 billion building. And you got homeless people all up in Skid Row in L.A. Then you tell them we're going to bring on more refugees and stuff like that. If you look at Michigan, you look at a place like Dearborn, Michigan, right?
Uh-huh.
And like, that's outside Detroit. But there's a lot of Middle Eastern people in Dearborn. I mean, I went to Dearborn, Michigan about 5 years ago almost. Yeah, wow. It was 2016, so almost 6 years. And I driving down the street, right? His sister from that area. All these business, car dealerships, palatial homes, restaurants are owned by like Iraqis or Syrians or something like that. It's like, I don't think a black person own a gas station in Detroit. You know what I'm saying? But you right next to Detroit, you got all this wealth, and they just came over here in the last 20 years. 10, 20 years. And yeah, we've been here forever. We don't got nothing to show for it. We fought in every war. Look how many sacrifices we made. Look at how they decimated our leadership. How they try to emasculate black men. This systemic genocide that we have faced, that we have faced for generations. What has changed? We fought in all their wars, but yet they'll raid the wrong house and kill grandma. Can't protect grandma in the neighborhood. The person that you were fighting overseas become your boss, runs your corner store.
Yeah.
It made no sense.
Yeah, because you can go in any corner store in America and you'll see a Middle Easterner or.
But young dog can't go to a cookie shop in the hood and not get shot. Man, get out of here with it. You know what I'm saying? I pale or whatever, they could be there. Nobody mess with them. But young dog can't go to the cookie.
Why? Yeah.
He never came back. He got the damn cookie.
Yeah, hold on real quick. Hold on.
Ida B. Doll. Tomorrow is the anniversary of the People's Grocery Lynching. The tragic event that helped create Ida B. Wells, the Justice Crusader. Yeah, I got this doll. I'm a big Ida B. Wells fan. I made my Ida B. Wells wall, but phenomenal sister. She helped point the spotlight on lynching. It just now passed an anti-lynching bill. This woman fought a multi-year one-woman crusade by herself to try to protect black people because she knew Black Lives Matter back in 1892. She knew Black Families Matter back in Black Families Matter back in 1892, and Black Guns Matter back in 1892. So I was talking about the People's Grocery Lynch. I got this out of the way. You know, tomorrow is also the anniversary of People's Grocery Lynching in Memphis, where they killed these successful black grocers, Thomas Moss and his business partners, Calvin Stewart and Henry McDowell. And Thomas Moss was Ida B. Wells' best friend. She was the godmother to his daughter. And they killed him because he had a successful business in South Memphis known as the People's Grocery Store. The white man across the street was trying to compete with them, but he couldn't, you know, they were like the Whole Foods, whatever, Aldi's of their time. So when they killed Thomas Moss, they kidnapped him and his friends from a jail cell, the county jail, because they was fighting to defend their property. They had their brothers, the Black Rifles of Tennessee or whatever they came. They was shooting out with the white folks. They found out they was hitting some white undercover police officers who didn't properly identify themselves. They're acting like hoodlums. So they did the right thing, respect the law. They turned themselves in, and they was kidnapped from the jail, and they were horribly lynched up in North Memphis near the railroad tracks. And her friend Thomas Moss was begging for his life because he had a newborn on the way, child on the way, he had a young daughter. And they said, well, you know, we ain't gonna let you go. Do you have any last words? You know, you got the white press was there too. They didn't try to intervene. The white media was there covering it. And he said that his last words were, tell my people to go west. They can't get any justice here. So Ida B. Wells reprinted his words in her Memphis Free Speech and Headlight. I mean, it was rare for a black woman to be a journalist, let alone own her own newspaper back in the day. And 6,000 black folks left Memphis, went west. A lot of them settled in Oklahoma in the place known as, we know as Black Wall Street.
Oh, wow.
Story that, that's why we got to tell our stories. But yeah, I mean, they could do a better job of the likeness, but it's Ida B. Wells.
Ida B. Wells, like what do you think her most significant contribution to the movie?
Basically exposing, like you talked about earlier, all the crimes that don't get talked about is hidden. She lifted the veil off what they was doing to black folks in the South. And she put her life on the line for this. She was a truth teller, a truth seeker, and a justice advocate. I mean, she's one of the founding members of the NAACP, for better or for worse. She created the first kindergarten for black people up in Chicago. Like I said, she owned and ran her own newspaper. This is at a time where women was told it was better to be seen than heard. They want you to be seen rather than heard. So she amplified her voice and also advocated for black folks. She led a one-woman crusade for years against lynching of black people. She traveled to Ireland and Scotland and Europe, all over the place, advocating for black people on her own. And she got ran out of Memphis and the South. The black folks, she was a school teacher here. They ran out of Memphis schools because she was complaining about how black teachers and students were not treated as equals with the white students and teachers. And then she ran out the South because she told the truth about the lynching, because she thought they were killing black people. They were justified in lynching black folks. Then when her best friend got killed, and all he did was be a successful businessman, he was a leader in the community. He was well-respected, Thomas Moss. And she found out, okay, not only that, she found out that a lot of these so-called rapes was consensual sex, that the white women wanted to be with the black man. And the white folks couldn't have, we can't have this crap. So they destroyed her newspaper office. Luckily, she was out of town on the East Coast. So she ended up not coming back to Memphis. From my understanding, if she set foot in Memphis, they would have blew her head off. They warned her, do not come back here. And she was just 29 years old
when she did that. So how did she eventually pass?
Well, she died. I mean, she was older back. She died like in March 25th, 1931. I think she had kidney disease, something like that. She died. She didn't get killed per se, but she died in 31. But she died. A good book to read is her Memphis Diaries that was edited by my friend Dr. Marion DeCasas Willis. She passed away back, I think last year. She actually participated in the Montgomery bus boycott back in the day. She was a beautiful woman. You couldn't tell if she was white or black, though. You weren't one of them, but she had a beautiful soul. I think she was like the first black professor at the University of Memphis. And she edited my Ida B. Wells diaries when she was in her 20s. And it's interesting to read her because it's a woman. She's beautiful, but yet she don't think that she'll ever get married. She's like, back then it's different than it is now. But she was concerned about finding a man and all this stuff. And it was interesting, like, this woman that ended up becoming what she became, that she started out as a woman that, was born into slavery. down in Holly Springs, Mississippi. And where she ended up is amazing.
A mayor?
Oh no, amazing! Like she started out in Holly. She started out as a slave in Holly Springs, Mississippi. She was born July 16, 1862, down in Holly Springs, and it's amazing where her life story, her journey took her because she lost both her parents to the yellow fever epidemic at the time. So she ended up raising her 5 brothers and sisters on her own. Instead of help them break up, I mean, she was 16, got a job as a teacher. So she was a very tough woman. And also, she did something before Rosa Parks did 70 years before Rosa Parks, where she refused to move herself out her seat on a train. Yeah. She won the case initially, but the Supreme Court of Tennessee overturned it.
Ida B. Wells. So, with you, with all the information, have you ever thought about documenting that, putting that in the book?
Well, I wrote one book about a guy named James Fitzgerald, who was a music pioneer and war hero from World War I. I need to do more of that. You know, I'm in a place now I'm more reflective. I feel like I wasted 20 years of my life. Not saying I ain't do anything good, but I feel like, man, I could have, if I had a time machine, I'd go back in the past and change some things around. But based on the stuff I know now, but, you know, I'm still alive, so I can still do some things. I'm relatively young, you know, I can still do stuff and make a contribution. But it is a concern of mine to do more. Like, I want to write more documentations, like books and documentaries and things of that nature.
So we talked about this a little bit, like with all you do, because, you know, a lot of people are not interested in, you know,
of course not,
helping themselves. Is there any time that you ever get discouraged, and then what makes you keep going, you know, with all of the work that you do?
All right, that's a great question. I do this. Yeah, I do. And what keep me going is that life is too short to be always feeling sorry for yourself. I mean, it's over as soon as it begins. You know what I'm saying? There's so much stuff to do. And I look at, I draw inspiration from people like Ida B. Wells and some of the other folks we talk about. You know what I'm saying? And you focus on that. Because a lot of times what I do, I go to cemeteries and eat lunch sometimes. I don't think that's strange, but I just like to sit. These folks won't ask you for your food. They won't be, you know, rude to you. They're just dead. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Eat the food in peace. But it helps me to meditate because I started thinking, I said, I wonder what that person was doing with their life. Like I might see a picture on a tombstone. I Googled it. I mean, I actually would, you know, Google the person up. I remember I was like, this not that long ago, I was at Elmwood Cemetery, one of my favorite places, because all that black, you could tell the story of Memphis as well as black history by going to Elmwood Cemetery. So many prominent black people buried there. It's ridiculous. And I was at Robert Church Mausoleum. He was the first black millionaire of the South, allegedly, and also he saved Memphis from the yellow fever epidemic. But it was a dude buried behind him, I think named Josiah Settle. So I Googled him. I found out he was a prominent lawyer. Now he was one of the first black people to graduate from Howard University class of 1872. So all the years I've been going to Elmwood, I didn't know he was back there behind his mausoleum. This guy who was a game changer, who was a lawyer, who advocated for black people rights, and also one of the first black, you know, graduates of Howard University.
And you found him out just by going and
walking around and being nosy and just Googling. I mean, smartphones, they come in, stuff is amazing if you know how to use it. You know, you can make a whole award-winning movie on a phone now.
Yeah,
you know, it's been done. You know, so I mean, there's no excuse why we can't tell our story. You don't need no big time budget to tell our stories. We are very resourceful and creative people.
And with the art I see in the background, is that your own personal art?
Yeah, that's my art. I'm an artist. Yeah, that's my own personal.
So, wow.
With my shirt, you know, I'm just an angry black man and try to express himself to keep from killing people. It's like that. I ain't have the way to express it. Like, it was a dude named Leadbelly, a great folk musician from Louisiana. He actually got out of prison by writing a song for the governor of Louisiana. He killed somebody, was able to get out of prison just by writing a song, and the governor was so impressed with it that he let him out. Leadbelly, one of the greatest musicians of the 20th century.
And that's who that is on your shirt?
No, it's like that. It's actually Dr. King right here.
Oh, okay.
Like the Memphis said, MK. And also, it's a book. Y'all try, because you know the anniversary coming April 4th. This is a good book to talk about the King assassination, the plot to kill King, by Dr. William Pepper. And it exposed a lot of things. Dr. William Pepper was at one point a lawyer for James Earl Ray, but also he was a friend of Dr. King in life. He was a journalist and a photographer and stuff. He's a lawyer as well. But he helped the King family bring the case against Lord Jowers, the restaurant owner, who said he was the middleman for the assassins of King. And on December 8th, 1999, it was ruled in U.S. Civil Court in Memphis that the U.S. government was complicit in the assassination of the king. And Judge Joe Brown made his name by being involved in the King thing, because he proved that the gun they said killed King was not the gun, and he also made the connection that the gun came from the FBI. So they got him out of Memphis and gave him a TV show. The rest is history.
Oh yeah, that's
yeah. He was actual judge, actual judge, and he was involved with the Panther Party back in the day. He was at UCLA when they killed Apprentice Bunchy Carter and John Huggins. Those was his friends. He was friends with Jerome Pratt, who was the godfather of Tupac. Mm-hmm. So he knew all the people, Angela Davis, all of them.
And he's from Memphis too.
He's not. Judge is from a little bit everywhere. He was born in DC, but raised in LA. I don't sound like I'm from LA. South Central. But now he was born in DC, but raised in LA. His people from Tennessee. So he been in Tennessee for so long that he is from Memphis.
Okay. Now he's supposed to be running for mayor?
Mayor of Memphis, yeah. He running for mayor of Memphis. That's the election should be in 2023.
Y'all think he gonna do it?
He can run, but I don't know if they're gonna elect, because with him, the problem is the voting machines. If they haven't been replacing them, if the voting machines are still corrupt, because a lot of people have issues with the voting machine, and that's been going on for years. So I don't know. So, Judge speak his mind. He be very divisive.
They've been proven to be corrupt, because I remember Dick Gregory said something like that one time, where he got over 9 million votes.
Yep, in Pennsylvania. And people say, it's not true. I said, I saw the articles. I posted newspaper articles from 68 that gave him 9 million votes in Pennsylvania. So you don't know what voting seem. Black people is weird. They make us into losers, because voting is not more important than having power. There's a difference between having power and having a vote. Have power means the most powerful people don't vote. They buy their politics. They buy what they want.
Oh, wow.
They don't vote. Voting is it's like voting trying to win the lottery.
Hope you hope.
You hope, right? And a lot of times you're gonna lose before you win anything. And you really don't win. It's like going to casino. I don't go to casino that much, but you go to casino, right? You see on the wall they won 50,000. It probably lost 500,000 though.
Yeah.
50,000 is something they lost 500 though. I promise.
They lost 500,000 before.
Right? They ain't winning. Nothing. You're not winning nothing. And that's depressing to think about, but it is what it is, man.
Definitely. And Ms. Mitchell said, awesome work on the art, the amazing art.
Hey, I appreciate it. You folks actually looking at this stuff. Wow, but you got a fan base.
Yeah.
I tell you about it, you don't really your views, you don't trust the views, just trust what the people say. If you get responses, because those views, they manipulate those things.
Yeah. So do you sell your art? How do you sell your art?
Oh, yeah, I sell my art, r2c2h2.com. That's my official website I need to update. But I got some art on there. And also, people go, I got a Teespring site, where they t-shirts with my art on it. You go to We All Be TV, there's a link, when you look at my videos, I got a shelf underneath my description box that click on that link to get t-shirts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely. So what's in the future? What would you say? What you got going on?
Staying alive, but also we got the Fort Pillow massacre. We've been advocating this for several years. Like me and my mom, that's my mom's passion project. Is to remember the Fort Pillow massacre, 1864, where Confederate forces led by General Nathan Bedford Forrest, who was the first Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, massacred 300 black soldiers as well as women and children at Fort Pillow in Henry, Tennessee, the childhood home of Alice Haley. So what we do every year is have a ceremony at the Memphis National Cemetery to honor the remains of the dead, because they never had a proper burial or funeral program. So we've been doing this since 2016. We work with different organizations in the community, including funeral homes, as well as the sheriff department, all military, to honor these people. We involved the descendants of the survivors of Fort Pillow massacre, because it was recognized as a massacre during Abraham Lincoln's lifetime, because Abraham Lincoln sent a congressional inquiry down to Fort Pillow into this area to interview survivors as well as people on both sides. And if you look at the actual primary sources, white folks won't lie about this. Nathan Bedford Forrest was been friends with Dr. King. Yeah, whatever. They said it was a massacre on both sides. Even Abraham Lincoln, in his own words, said it was a massacre. And everything is political with war, but I'm saying black lives was lost, but they were dedicating to liberating themselves, because nobody can free you but you. So we try to honor their spirit and our ancestors by, giving them homage around the anniversary, which is April the 12th, for the last couple of years be doing in Juneteenth and stuff like that. But we actually raised $3,000 to put a historic marker in front of the cemetery honoring those people.
Wow, the Fort Pillow Massacre.
Yeah, we call it the reflaying ceremony. We do it every year since 2016. And also the Jimmy Lunsford Jamboree Festival. I do that in October. I try to do it like the last week in October to honor Jimmy Lunsford, who was the first high school band director for black schools in Memphis back in the 20s, but used his best high school students to become the greatest swing band of the 30s and 40s. This guy was more popular than Duke Ellington and Cal Calloway and Count Basie, was a house band in the Cotton Club, as well as the number one attraction of Apollo Theater for a whole decade, and owned and flew his own airplane. And probably was poisoned, maybe perhaps by a restaurant owner up in Oregon back in 1947 at the age of 45. Wow. So what I like about him that he used to come back to Memphis and do free concerts and invest in music programs, not only in Memphis, but throughout the country for black children, because he was a social worker too. But he was an interesting guy. So I said I try to do that to honor, because like he was very popular during his lifetime, but now people never heard of him. But he was the number one band, and all the musicians wanted his sound. Like the white musician Glenn Miller said it, and Glenn Miller disappeared during World War II over the English Channel. He was a popular band leader, but he said that Duke is great, Count is remarkable, but Lunsford tops them both. He wanted that sound. Everybody wanted that sound, but today nobody really talks about Jimmy Lunsford. So I'm working on a documentary on him as well too.
That's man. It's just like the information is so overwhelming.
I'm sorry, I'm talking fast. I know I'm talking real fast. I'm talking too fast.
Nah, I mean, I just the depth of knowledge, like these people who that are so influential, but not many people have heard of, and it's sort of like,
you know, the trend that when you try to help black folks forget about you. You know that trend, like Robert Will, all the black folks that try to help us, we don't know them.
Yeah, because actually Robert Williams talked about the people in Monroe was distancing themselves from him, the black people.
Of course they were.
So many ways.
It's like with Medgar Evers, man, when he used to walk down the streets of Jackson, black folks would just cross the other way to get away from him. That's why with Marilyn Evers, when he died, she was madder at black folks than she was at white folks, because he said, y'all didn't give, like she was saying, he did all this for us and y'all didn't care. Y'all was afraid.
Yeah.
He put himself out there for y'all. Y'all didn't care.
Yeah. Like you said, that definitely in the South, man, it is that mentality of, that fear has been embedded in us. Like even to this day, people are scared to speak about certain things.
Of course.
That go on, and when you do speak about them things, people distance themselves from you, or or tell you you better be careful, or watch yourself now. But
everybody gotta die one day. Like people that do GoFundMe's. I got life insurance. I know I gotta die one day. Hell, you don't do no fish fry for me. I know I gotta die. I don't think that day gonna ever come. Like it was a person I know. She was in insurance, right? She does insurance. Her sister just recently died, and I remember sometimes she'd be on Facebook and stuff talking about, don't be those type of people that do GoFundMe's and fish fries. And guess what happened? She ended up doing a GoFundMe. But she's still insurance though. But I'm gonna leave that alone. But I'm saying you see the irony of that. You talking about people not having insurance, but your sister didn't have insurance to cover her own death.
Yeah, man. It's what about the financials? The financial part of the fight.
You pay a price, man. I mean, this is you try. I mean, you pay a price for being on the right side of history. A lot of times you won't be well compensated for being on the right side. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. You got to make those choices. I believe that if you do things in a certain faith, in a certain way, the Most High or the unknown will make ways for you. Because a lot of times you can't really see. It's like if you driving, I just got off the road driving to Atlanta, whatever. But a lot of times when you get driving at night, you can only see so much in front of you based on your lights. But eventually you get to your place. Before you know it, you already went 400 miles on faith.
Yeah.
You can't see all the 400 miles. You see so many feet ahead of you. So that's how life is a lot of times. You just got to keep on going and see what happens. I think what people mess up is people quit too soon, man. See, I'm already in this crap. I'm already in debt. I'm going to see how it play out for me. See, if I last long enough, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like Dolph. I saw an interview young Dolph did, right? He was saying, even if it take you a long time, your time will come. Whatever, just keep on doing what you're doing. Your time will get there. So how you use that time is on you.
Definitely. And it's like I told you, when I first reached out, it's like you such an inspiration to me as well, because I see, the just the work, and then sometimes we all get discouraged. So, I want
to get discouraged.
Give you your flowers, and have you on the show, man. I know it's much more to talk about, but I done kept you for 2 hours. So
it was my fans, so I was having fun, man. I enjoy you, man. You got a great platform. You got a great personality. You got a voice for this, man. I just want you to stay encouraged. I don't know what nobody's going through. I know it's hard for a lot of us right now, but stay encouraged. Your voice matter, and what you do for the people is beyond money. It's worth more valuable than gold.
Okay, I certainly appreciate that, man, and you as well, man. We're gonna end the show now, but I thank everybody for watching. Thank Brother Hurd and this wealth of information, man. We ain't even touched the surface yet, so I'm gonna have to have him back.
I'll be trying to do another show if you want me on, man.
Yeah, man. We're gonna get you back, man. If anything else, the one last question: R2C2H2.
It's Ronald Cortez Hurd II. Like I try to do like a chemistry equation. So it's Ronald Cortez Hurd II, R2C2H2. I know people think about Star Wars, R2D2. Whatever, man. I longer people talking.
Okay. Yeah. So I definitely want to once again thank you, man. Read a couple of comments. Thank you, Felicia Mitchell, for watching. You are pouring out so much.
I like Felicia. I didn't find more sisters like her. She live in North Carolina.
Hey, man, it's always right to do God. We are protection. Yes, he is making an impact. Thank you. One of the better programs. Get those books out. I guess you're talking about
you're reading, man.
Yeah. I mean, like I guess you're talking about your books, like the information.
Oh, yeah. I get them. I don't want to take it to the grave with me. I am working on it now.
Yeah, nobody knows, man. But yeah,
you know what I'm saying? It's crazy out here, man. I had lost a lot of people the last few years, young and old.
Yeah, we definitely have my condolences, man. And
thank you. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, like I said, I don't know what people going through right now. I just try to be. That's what I try to do. I mean, I'm glad I wish you happy birthday on Facebook. I try to do that. That's the least I can do for somebody. I don't know what the hell people catching.
Yeah,
right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, just your energy, man, and your attitude about certain stuff. Once again, thank you, Mr. Hurd. Time well spent. Yeah, and like I said, if anybody want to check this guy out for real, and just even I mentioned in his interviews with other people, but like he just has so many videos where he's just talking and disseminating information.
And Mr. Location.
Just check him out. We All BTV, Ron Hurd, man. It's definitely been a pleasure, man. And I thank everybody for listening. And we'll see y'all next week.
We love y'all madly. One love. Thank you.
One love.